Dizziness or lightheadedness? Let's talk about that feeling we all dread. Dizziness or lightheadedness? You know, when you stand up too quickly, and for a moment, it feels like the room is spinning around you. Most of us have had that happen, and it's usually nothing to worry about. But if that sensation of dizziness starts to happen more often, or if you feel lightheaded even when you've been sitting or standing still for a while, it could be a sign that something deeper is going on. I've certainly had my share of those dizzy moments, and I used to brush them off as just a part of getting older. But over time, I realized that when I started feeling lightheaded without any real cause, it was more than just a passing thing. Sometimes the feeling of dizziness is your body's way of telling you that your heart isn't pumping blood as effectively as it should. When this happens, your brain doesn't get the blood and oxygen it needs, and that can lead to those moments when everything feels a little off balance. It's like your body's warning light is flashing, but it's subtle at first. For me, I noticed that dizziness would come on most when I got up from sitting for a while, especially if I'd been sitting still for too long. It's a strange sensation, almost like the world is tilting, and you're trying to catch your balance. One little trick I've found that helps is to make sure I'm standing up slowly. Sometimes, when we jump to our feet too quickly, our bodies don't have enough time to adjust, and it can make us feel dizzy. Just standing up slowly and giving your body a moment to catch up can make a world of difference. But if dizziness starts happening regularly, or if it's accompanied by other symptoms like feeling faint or weak, that's when it's time to check in with your doctor. I've learned that the sooner you address these things, the easier it is to figure out what's going on, and it gives you peace of mind. Our hearts are doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and it's up to us to take care of them, especially as we get older. Chest discomfort that comes and goes. Now, let's talk about something that's probably one of the most common things we hear about when it comes to heart health: chest discomfort. Now, I don't want to freak anyone out here, because we've all had those occasional moments where we feel a little tightness in our chest after exerting ourselves or even just sitting in one position for too long. That's fairly normal from time to time, and it can happen to any of us. But if you're starting to feel discomfort in your chest regularly, and especially if it comes and goes without any obvious cause, it could be a sign that your heart is trying to tell you something. For me, I remember the first time I felt this. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a dull pressure right in the middle of my chest that would show up now and then, usually when I was relaxing or after a long day. At first, I thought it was just stress, but after it kept happening, I realized I needed to pay a little more attention. Sometimes, it's just a little discomfort or tightness, and other times, it might feel like a slight squeezing sensation. It might come and go, which can make it easy to dismiss. But the trick is to listen to your body. If the discomfort happens after a meal, when you're resting, or even without any real physical effort, it might be something that needs to be looked at. I've learned that it's a good idea to keep track of when it happens. Is it during a certain time of day? Or is it after a specific activity? Those small details can be helpful to share with your doctor, as they can point to certain patterns that might be worth investigating further. It's important to remember that chest discomfort doesn't always mean something severe, but it's always better to err on the side of caution. I always say if something feels off, don't hesitate to get it checked out. It's so much easier to address these things early, rather than wait until they become a bigger issue. Our hearts deserve that attention, especially as we age, and it's a small step that can give us peace of mind in the long run. Hey there, friends! Welcome back to Golden Years. It's always great to have you with me. Today, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind, and I know it might be on yours too: our hearts. As we get older, it becomes more important to listen to our bodies. And sometimes, Those little things that seem like no big deal could actually be signs that our heart is asking for a bit more attention. I want to go over 5 signs that could indicate heart problems after 60. Now, don't go getting worried, but it's always better to be aware, right? So, let's dive in. Feeling short of breath for no reason. Now, let's talk about something that a lot of us might brush off. Feeling out of breath. I mean, come on. As we get older, it seems like we're always a little more winded than we used to be, right? Whether it's from climbing a few stairs or just walking from one room to the next, we all have those moments where we feel like we need to catch our breath. But here's the thing. If you're finding that you're getting short of breath more often, and especially if it's happening when you're not doing anything that should be tiring, that could be a sign that your heart isn't pumping blood quite as efficiently as it should. Now, I know, this isn't the most pleasant thing to think about, but sometimes our hearts need a little extra help, and that could be their way of letting us know. I've experienced this myself. A few years ago, I noticed that I'd start getting breathless after doing simple tasks like making a quick trip to the mailbox or just getting up to go to the kitchen. At first, I thought it was just my age catching up with me, but then it started happening more often, even when I wasn't exerting myself. And that's when I realized something might be off. It's like my body was telling me that my heart was working a little harder than it should, but without any major symptoms to go with it. A little trick I've learned that helps me out is to take a moment to pause, breathe deeply and slowly, and just give myself a moment to reset. A couple of slow, intentional breaths can really make a difference. It's like your body gets the message that you're taking care of it. But here's the thing. If this becomes a regular issue, don't just ignore it. Our hearts are like the engines of our bodies, and when they start to sputter, it's important to give them the attention they need. It's always better to check in with your doctor if this feeling becomes more than just an occasional thing. Better safe than sorry, as they say, right? Unexplained fatigue. Now, let's talk about something that I think we've all experienced at some point. Fatigue. You know, that deep, bone-weary tiredness that just seems to hit you out of nowhere. We've all had those days where we feel like we could sleep for hours, but it's different when it happens all the time. If you're finding yourself constantly tired, even after a good night's sleep, then that's something worth paying attention to. I know, when we get older, it's easy to brush off fatigue as just another part of the aging process. But here's the thing. Unexplained fatigue can sometimes be a signal that your heart is struggling to keep up. When the heart isn't pumping blood efficiently, your body doesn't get the oxygen it needs, and that leaves you feeling drained. I've had those days where I just couldn't seem to shake the tiredness, even though I'd done nothing more than go about my usual routine. And after a while, I realized that it wasn't just about age. It was about something more. It's like the energy just gets sucked out of you, and no matter how much you rest, you can't seem to recharge. For me, I found that keeping track of when the fatigue hits helped. Is it after walking up a few stairs? Or maybe it's after a day of light activity. Sometimes, pinpointing when that fatigue shows up can help us see if it's related to something bigger. A little trick I've found to help on those low-energy days is making sure I stay hydrated. It's amazing how much better you can feel when you're just drinking enough water. Often, when we're dehydrated, we can feel more sluggish than we realize. But even with that, if the tiredness becomes something you can't shake, it's a good idea to talk to your doctor about it. Fatigue, especially if it's persistent, can be a sign that your heart's working a little too hard, and it's better to get it checked out than to just brush it off. Swelling in the feet or ankles. Now, let's talk about something that can sneak up on you and make you feel a little uncomfortable. Swelling in the feet or ankles. At first, it might seem harmless, right? I mean, Who hasn't had those days when you're on your feet a bit longer than usual and notice a little puffiness in your ankles? It happens to all of us from time to time, especially when the weather's warm or when we've been on our feet for hours. But here's the thing. If you start noticing that swelling is happening more often, whether you've been active or not, it could be a sign that something's going on with your heart. You see, when our hearts don't pump blood as effectively as they should, the fluid in our bodies can start to pool, usually in the lower legs and feet. Over time, that extra fluid can cause the swelling to get worse, making it uncomfortable to walk or even just sit for long periods. I know for myself, I started noticing my feet feeling a bit tight, especially in the evenings after a day of light activity. It was subtle at first, so I didn't think much of it, but over time, it started to get more noticeable. Sometimes, I'd take off my shoes, and my feet would feel heavier than usual. Now, don't get me wrong, swelling isn't always a cause for alarm. I've learned that simply elevating your feet for a while can really help. You know, just kicking back, putting your feet up on a cushion, or even on a chair, and letting gravity work its magic. It's a simple trick, but it can help reduce the swelling. But if the swelling doesn't go down, or if it's becoming more of a regular thing, it's definitely something to bring up with your doctor. Trust me, it's better to get it checked out. Our hearts are responsible for so much, and when they need a little extra support, it's important to listen. It could be something as simple as a minor issue, but it could also be a sign of something that needs more attention. A racing heart. Let's talk about something that can really make you stop in your tracks. Your heart racing for no reason. Now, I'm sure we've all had those moments when we're feeling excited or anxious, and our heart starts to pound a little faster. That's normal, right? But when it happens out of the blue, without any real cause, it can be a little unsettling. It's like your heart suddenly starts to work overtime, and you're not sure why. I've experienced this myself, especially during stressful situations or after a big change. Sometimes, it feels like my heart is just beating away at full speed, even when I'm sitting still, and I'll admit, it can be a bit unnerving. The thing is, your heart is a pretty efficient pump, but every now and then, it can get a little out of sync. You might feel your heart race, or you might even notice that it's skipping a beat or two. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean anything serious, but if it happens often, or if you notice that your heart feels like it's fluttering or thumping harder than usual without any obvious cause, it's something worth paying attention to. I've learned that one of the best things you can do in the moment is to just breathe. I know it sounds simple, but taking a few deep breaths can really help calm your body down. I find that slowing my breathing and relaxing my shoulders makes a big difference. Sometimes, the racing heart is just your body's response to stress, but it's always good to keep an eye on it. If this becomes a regular occurrence, though, or if you feel lightheaded, dizzy, or short of breath along with the racing heart, that's when it's time to talk to your doctor. I always say it's better to get it checked out than to let it slide. You'd be surprised at how much you can learn from just being aware of what your body's telling you. So, don't ignore those little signals. It's a lot easier to address heart issues early, when you catch them, before they become something bigger.